Ibra di testa, Tonali, gol! Sandro! Meritato! Sandro!
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host this week, Anthony Torgrud. Ollie is in Italy to watch the Coldplay concert, but not the one that Zlatan and Maldini were at. He picked the wrong day, but that's where he's at. He's not with us, so I'm filling in for Ollie, and filling in for me is Madison.
I'm here, and filling in for me is a English Steph.
I'm here as well. Filling in for me is no one.
Yeah, Steph's here. He's not thrilled. He thought we were going to be talking about Tonali, so he wanted to rage, and then I said, no, we're talking about transfers. But we're going to give him that platform anyways, because there's not a whole lot for this week. So if you watch the bonus podcast and you've already heard my opinion on it, but you haven't heard Steph's, you haven't heard Madison's yet. As everyone knows, Tonali to Newcastle, done deal. Steph, you want to just take the wheel on that one? Let it out?
Yeah. Look, financially, as a transfer, it's great business for considering how much we spent.
Off to a good start.
Solid start. He's so upset. His internet broke.
It's still, yeah, I know, ridiculous. Anyway, I'm back. I'm back now.
Yeah,
good?
You're good.
Yeah.
All right, we go. Cool. Anyway, financially, yeah, the deal makes sense because, we're finally selling players on the high. It's just that this player wouldn't be one that would leave on a free transfer. This is someone who would easily just renew his contract on, consistently represented the club. Yes, we talk about boyhood fans and players living the dream of fans, and that was Tonali, man. We know how much he bled for this shirt. It's just a shame, isn't it? It's a shame. I think and it's like the knock-on effect now that, like, if the players around the squad might be looking at that as going, where's the ambition? Where's the ambition? If you swap that round and Tonali saw all these, like, a Tamori or Leao or Mike or Teo leave, I guarantee you he wouldn't care. He'd still stay here. And I don't think that works the other way around. Because I think he would have, like, ride or die, he would have been with his club. And it just shows, like, a lack of, like, depending on who we sign, and even so, is that we've lost a starter, and then we've got Benacer out until New Year, and then plus that after AFCON. It just gives us so much more work to do this summer. And I'm not quite sure I trust. Scouting is obviously the scouting, yet we seem to be going after Maldini's targets regardless. Still, we'll come on to. I don't trust the conversion of management, Moncada, Fellaini. We're going to talk about Thuram, but, like, it's evident that this is what we lost with Maldini going. We lose a guy who's got the appeal. We saw it with Galliani in the past. Has got the appeal, has got the rapport with other clubs to get signings across the line, to even get players to stall negotiations with other clubs because they believe in the project. You've lost that when you sack Maldini, and you've lost an icon that can convert those players into sticking out with the club and the potential transfer. And now I think we're starting to see sort of the outcome of that. But yeah, back to Tonali, it gives us a lot of work to do. Financially, it makes good sense, but at the same time, I'm just completely gutted that we've lost such a big player for this side, who was obviously on the trajectory of incredible season before last. Last season he racked up 9 or double figures of assists. He was coming into his own. He was a reliable player, and we've now lost that. And it's like, okay, we now have to build again, which is kind of a bit of a shame. Not the way I thought this club.
Yeah, that's kind of my biggest issue with it as well. Like you said, financially, it's a great deal. But looking at not even the player that we sold, but the department that the player is in, if you sell a goalkeeper for that high fee, like, you could replace a goalkeeper, no problem. You sell an attacker, like, it's difficult to replace a guy like Leao, almost impossible. But, if you did that, you would have money to reinvest in all kinds of positions. You sell Teo, you could replace a left back. Those aren't critical positions. But to take the only healthy starting caliber midfielder away from us, when we knew our other starting midfielder was going to be gone until February, when we didn't have a third string backup, that's when it becomes an issue, because now you're not looking at we need 2 center mids. Now we're looking at we need 3 or 4. and that's when it's difficult. The third center mid is all last season was already unreliable. Benacer was the only guy we had that we could count on to fill in next to whomever. Obviously, he's hurt, and now with Tonali gone, it's like, okay, now we're looking at a midfield of Pobega, Krunic, and CDK. Brahim's gone, so it's like we really all three midfielders from our Scudetto winning season just a year ago gone until at least February to get one of them back. So it's an uphill battle in that sense. Then you look at who the player was, and like that part's devastating in itself. And I know he was Maddie's favorite player on the team, one of mine as well. That I don't have the biggest issue with. I've seen legends leave the club before. Like that's something we've grown to be able to handle. But again, it's just knowing that the outcome, the justification of it isn't a very good one. When it was Zlatan and Thiago Silva leaving, it was like, okay, the club was financially in shambles. They couldn't say no to an offer for money. And that made sense. When it was Gigio leaving on a free, it was like, well, we just got Mignon for cheap and he's arguably better. We're like, okay, cool. But this one, it's like, it was a position we needed to reinforce. We made it weaker. He was the only player who was going to be still with us thick and thin, and he was a starting caliber player. So no matter who we sign, it's a downgrade. And you're looking at the links and who just got basically confirmed as done today, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek for 15 million. Like, look, I don't think he's a bad player, but he's not Tonali level.
No, he's not
Benacer level. He might be a little better than Krunic, but he. I don't know if that's the guy I'm trusting to lead the line. I don't know. What do you guys think?
No, I think that Milan management had an expectation that they were going to sell Tonali, Mike, or Teo this transfer window, because no one's going to take Leao's release clause. Maybe like PSG or Real Madrid, but and we all kind of knew that like we weren't going to just like start splashing cash, even though we are a financially sound team. But there needed to be funds raised from somewhere, right? Offers for Salamakers, for Macias, those aren't coming in. For Rebic, those are going to be like 5-10, maybe. Like, there needed to be one big sale that needed to happen. And I would have much rather it been Mike or Teo, but like, it had to be everyone's favorite, or like the Milan,
And that's my issue. It's just they picked the worst option.
He is replaceable. Like, the player itself is replaceable. What he means to the fan base and what the team means to that player is not replaceable.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd argue, like, I mean, AJ, you touched on that. It was like the worst position to lose a player in, considering that we've lost ranks. We've lost, I mean, like numerically, we've lost Bakayoko and ranks back to their parent clubs. Benacer's out until February. And Pobega, I mean, Krunic had a good season, but the whole point of us was supposed to be adding to this, and he'd be the fourth option, and now he's going to have to be probably like one of the first two options on the team sheet. And Pobega, we're critical of his performances last season. We don't think he's going to click into purely setup and side, but I don't know in what scenario is kind of like the best one to lose. I think equally out of Mike and Teo, they're huge. I don't think we're going to luck out and sell Mike and get someone just as good as him. I think we were very lucky and we were very fortunate with Lille's financial position, and I think he had a year left on his deal at the time. I don't think we get that deal again. And Teo is Teo. I still think, like, we lose that guy, we lose a massive asset to the attack. Not many players can do what he can do going forward, and I think I would be devastated even more so if we lost Teo. And I think just the last bit on it is, for me, is just like the difference between, I don't think we needed the funds. I mean, it depends on this mysterious budget that existed before Tonali got sold. We're not quite sure, maybe 50 mil. But like, yeah, I mean, it's all hypothetical. But like, let's say if it was that, Christ, I mean, now we're in a situation, like, what does that mean? What are the players that we do want to sell, like your Revic's and your Macias's and potentially Origi? What then? We're not in an urgency to shift them. Like, there's not a scenario I perceive going out of this season but they are still potentially going to be in this squad because we can't shift them, and then we had to lose one of our like sort of core players. And the difference is between Ibra and Thiago going. It's like, yeah, we needed to raise the funds for FFP. The difference with Gigio going was because he wanted more money as a player. We don't need to raise the money for FFP for the club. And Tonali wasn't asking for more money contractually. This is different. This is and this is where we're going to have to assess at the end of the summer. They're going to roll the dice here, and depending on who they get, because they're going for more of a squad decision here to get that money to bolster the squad out. Let's see how that actually unfolds. Is going to be, I guess the score for the outcome of this sale. If they sold Tonali for what, 80 mil, and they get Loftus-Cheek and they get, I don't know, like some actual starting caliber midfielders that was the same, like you sell one and then you buy like maybe 2 or 3 players, then it might work. But equally, they've given themselves more work to do and less wiggle room with the fans because you've just sold a fucking big player who all the fans love. So yeah, the jury's out for it still, but they're certainly not getting. It's not a good PR move. I think we're all sort of in agreement with that. It's not a good PR move.
No, it's
not
not
at all.
bad.
Or Italian football either.
It's actually been PR disaster after disaster after disaster since the end of the season, really. I mean, well, and even as someone who has tried to defend the new management, new ownership, and give them time, like, and I'm trying hard, it's getting to a point where even I'm like, fuck, guys, I can't do this anymore. Like, someone's got to do something. But, I made a joke in the chat the other day about, Shira said we want to sign 7 to 8 players, and we're at -7 right now. And as much of a joke as that is, it's actually 100% true. We signed 7 players, and we have the exact same number, if not less players than we had last season when depth was a huge issue for us. So by that logic, we need 14 players just to...
Depth wasn't an issue. Quality depth was.
Yeah, okay, fair enough, yeah. And you look at the players we're resigning, and none of them are Tonali level right now. The names we're linked with, none of them are at Tonali's level. None of them are at Benacer's level. Like, so that scares me even more. Does that mean we need more players to recreate that level? I don't know. It's
the reality is it's 26th of June right now. We haven't signed what we may have locked in Sportiello on a free transfer, but like
Colombo.
We haven't signed anyone. Who's that? Oh,
Colombo.
Colombo, the detective. We haven't signed anyone yet. So this whole theory that we get all these players in theory that's great with the money that we now raked up, but in practice we haven't done anything with it. And I don't think it's as simple, and we're finding that out with Ala Thuram, that we are missing something to get signings across the line. And until we actually see them hold that shirt, and ideally the sooner the better, because they need to integrate with the coaching and the club and the fellow players, which now we're losing ground on. But we then have to hope that all these players we do sign, these 7 to 8 players, can click. And we've seen it before that doesn't always work. 2017 summer transfer window. So there's a big risk here, let alone just the need to sign these amount of players. Will they actually click when they play together?
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, you look at our 2 windows where we've done that, and then you look at Tottenham when they signed 13 players after selling Gareth Bale, and they got significantly worse somehow. So like it takes a lot. You look at Chelsea; they spent a small country's GDP on players, and they fucking finished 12th or 13th this year. Like, you need that time to adapt. That was another complaint we had for CDK last season when the deal got done so late in the year. We're like, oh, he's going to need a few months to get used to it. And it took the whole fucking year, and he got 0 goals. But you mentioned Thuram, and that's, I guess that's another big piece that we haven't talked about yet, is that was a done deal. And then an hour later, it was a done deal to enter. That was one where he had vocalized his decision to not go to PSG, to not go to Leipzig, and then we were the favorites. We're the only team remaining. And then we made some cheeky inquiry about Lukaku to piss off Inter, supposedly. And they said, well, we could do that too. And they looked at our offer to Thuram, 5 + 1 in bonus. And they said, we'll just give you 6 up front. projects are identical. You get a starting spot in both. It's the same city, same stadium. Why would you not pick the one with the more money? So he fucked off to Inter, and now we lost another player. Like, if we're negotiating with a guy for a month and we can't even get to a signing phase, and then Inter comes in and just offers 1 million more, just says, here, we'll take this, and then he's gone. It's
Yeah, but
it's kinda
if you
scary.
think about it, we negotiated him away from PSG and Red Bull, right? So like we did the negotiating for Inter, but they just offered more money.
That's what I'm saying. They came in at the last second and just said same exact project.
At the end of the day, our negotiation tactics worked. He didn't sign for PSG or Red Bull. He just signed for our redhead stepchild.
Blue-haired.
I know, but then
all gingers.
But like, if we are negotiating with the player for all this length of time, we also lucked out because PSG are going to start targeting Osimhen now. They could have equally gone either way there. Why can't we counter offer Inter's offer if we fucking believe in the player?
Yeah.
Like,
if we're willing to offer
it's
him
not like,
equal to Leao.
Yeah. It's not like a game of FIFA where like, oh no, that's it, expired. Like, no, he's made a decision. Like, I'm pretty sure when we found out that, we then had the option to either counter offer it or match it. And I don't know. I just think it's just fucking. It's embarrassing. That's all it is. It's embarrassing as a
And
fan.
Thuram wasn't even a striker that really moved me. It was a name I liked, especially on a free. Don't get me wrong, but he wasn't the guy that I was like, he's the one to revolutionize our attack. But when you have this disaster after sacking Maldini, and then immediately losing Tonali after, now's the time to accelerate and get whatever across the line that you can, so that you win a little bit of faith back with the fans, a little face save. And then to lose that guy to a city rival over the difference of making your bonus offer permanent or whatever you want to call it, like at that point you do break the bank. You say, okay, we'll give you more. Like, you were already with us. We want you. We believe in you. We're offering you this project. Stick with us. And the fact that we didn't do that, it shows a lack of maturity, a lack of experience to the management.
Jerry doesn't like losing, right?
It sure seems like he loves it, actually. That's what it is. He doesn't like it. He loves it. But it's a lack of experience. And, that was a big factor why people said Maldini wasn't going to be good, is he had no experience. But he's showing his experience as a player mattered more than Fruani's experience at Lehman Brothers. Like, it's I don't know. It's frustrating. It's rough. It's a loss after a loss after a loss. And now we're getting into some signings that are coming true, but you look at who those are. Ruben Loftus-Cheek, that's a player Maldini was after. Christian Pulisic, that was a player Maldini was after. Sportiello, that's a player Maldini signed. It's like we said, no, we don't like what you're doing and the players you're going after. We have our own algorithm, our own methods. And all that failed back to back to back. So they said, let's go back and get the guys Maldini already had locked up. And I think that's the key point, is Maldini had locked up. He didn't have them thinking about it. He had it done. And that's the only reason these players are willing to accept it again.
Yeah, I mean, our ownership is a joke right now. Our leadership team is a joke. It's going to take a lot for them to dig out of the hole that they've dug, right? I mean, here's the thing. Firing Maldini was one thing. Like, if it had to happen, it had to happen. It sucks, right? It sucks at the way it went down. We did not have to sell Tonali. We did not, we've dug ourselves in a hole. And then like 3 days later, Thuram chooses Inter. Like, last week was a really shitty week for Milan fans and the club itself. Today's Monday. We are like really close to signing 2 players. Maybe it's going to be a better week.
Yeah, maybe, at some point,
maybe we're going to be buying a Pulisic jersey on Friday. We never know.
Fuck that. I mean, he's not awful.
He's better than Macias, that's for sure.
He's not awful,
yeah,
but like he's not like great. I like him because he's an American. Like, I like the national team, but he was okay at Chelsea. He was good at Dortmund, and I think that he can be good in Italy if he stays healthy.
Look, and I think that I'll reserve my comments on him because I think quite similar to like Thuram. Would I prefer someone better? Yes, of course I would be, but we're not a club that can want that right now. Christ, we have, as you said, Rebic and Macias and Origi. And I think this is what pissed me off with the whole Thuram thing. And a lot of people coming out saying like, "Oh, he ain't that guy. He ain't that guy. 13 goals maximum per season." Yeah, that might be the case, but at the same time, the guy's a free agent, and now we have in a position where we still need a number 9 of that profile, and we have to physically spend the money now to get him rather than get him on a free. We've lost a serious market opportunity, and that's another free agent that's gone out of our hands. And there's also benefited a fucking rival as well. Like, it's like Inter just keen to get away with it again, but no, it's just us being like complete morons and not converting it. So that's the infuriating bit. Whereas like I look at Pulisic and I go, yes, we could get better, but if we get a financially sound deal with Chelsea, then I'm not going to complain about it, because you know what, he's better than most of the players we've got in attack right now at the club. It's not about getting the player that you really want to get, and it's that the dream centre. We're not nowhere near a position of a club or as fans to even want that. It's not realistic, because it's not realistic with this management's budget, and it's not realistic with the pool that we have as a club. Right now, I'm just happy that anything that's going to upgrade the current players that we have. And people, and the fucking who these reporters coming out going, oh, about Thuram, and they're saying they weren't convinced of the money that was being offered to him. Like, was it Nick, that your guy Shreya? I don't know.
I don't think he said he wasn't convinced of the money. I think he just said that Inter offered more, or that he offered the same but without the bonus. They offered it as guaranteed.
One report, I think it was like longer, someone came out and did like a tweet afterwards saying that, based off, the guy's only scored 13 goals, and it was a risk. Like, it was given like an opinion to a potential transfer.
I remember that. Yeah. Who the fuck was
that?
that?
Here's the thing: if you are going to sign someone and pay them close to, if not more than Leao, they better bring an output that is equal or more. 13 goals,
yes and no.
Not, especially he's not. Hopefully, he's not the next big thing because we lost out on him, right?
I mean, well, hopefully not in this case, but like there's different ways to look at the sort of the money you're offering to a player. We can look at an Inter who obviously are paying good money to these players who are, we wouldn't have, like Hakan and stuff. We weren't willing to pay that money, and we laughed it off, going, "How's he getting?" I'm back.
Yeah,
there we go. Crashed. Anyway, based off our model, we're going to keep losing out on players because we're not willing to spend a bit more and spend like a serious club on these free agents and the transfers that they have. And then equally, I can look internally, and we paid what? We're paying Origi 4.5 mil a year, and what's his output like? We're paying Rebic 2.5, 3 mil a year. What's his output like? It's not like we could sit here and go, well, I want Leao figures, like I want Leao output, because we're going to pay him. Like, Christ, look internally. We don't get that anyway. That doesn't.
No,
the math ain't math in there.
You're right, and we fucked up. And maybe that's why they don't want to do it again.
Too, but they're not going to, because they're getting that money that they know they're not getting elsewhere because they haven't earned it. So they're going to stick around, like Montolivo, how he had to end up playing his career when we wanted him gone every season because we offered him $8 million a season or whatever bullshit figure it was.
That's crazy.
Pietro Mazzara right now from Milan News just said that we're about to activate Morata's release clause of $10 million.
Fuck.
So that kind of is shitty. I fucking hate that.
Gross transfer. Like,
yeah.
Why? When was the last time he paid a full 90?
Where is he at? Like, is he at Atletico still?
Yeah, he's at Atletico. He only had, okay, so it says who made 13 in La Liga this season, but it doesn't say 13 appearances or 13 goals in this article. They fucked that. Yeah, I don't know how he did this season. I can't imagine it was good. I don't think he's ever been a very high-level player. I think he just magically gets to fucking clubs off name value alone somehow. But
13 goals. He played 36 games.
Oh, okay. So 13 goals in 23 starts, 36 total games, 2 assists. I mean, that's honestly not terrible. He is 30. I guess at 10 mil it is fairly cheap, but that's not the guy for me. I would rather us at that point go for Lukaku in all seriousness. I think Lukaku's hold-up play offers us more with Leao on the wing, but I don't think Lukaku would want to come to us anyway, so that doesn't even matter.
Maybe we'll be like a Fernando Torres situation where we sign him and then sell him immediately.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a awful. That'd be awful. Torres did score in his debut for us, but other things we're seeing linked with is Pioli wants Milinkovic-Savic. This is according to Gazzetta dello Sport. Apparently now they're asking 50 million. I don't know if I believe that. Last year's contract, a couple of weeks ago, it was 25. So we'll see what happens.
We have the
there.
Tonali money now.
And that's what it is too. Midfielders are going to cost us more. Clubs know we need to spend it.
Yeah.
They know we need to reinvest that. That sucks, but oh well. We're seeing Guler. Is it Guler or Huler? How do you? I don't. The Turkish kid. Arda Guler, something like that. Guler. I think that one might happen. They're saying release cost at 17.5, and then we're going to activate it. And then they were saying that we're going to spend more than that for it. I know Chelsea tried to do that with Enzo Fernandez, and the reason being was the Fernandez release clause required the payment up front in cash, whereas if they were to offer more, they could dictate their own payment plan.
Oh.
I don't foresee us doing that with something as small as 17.5 million, but then again, this is
It all
Milan.
depends on how the Tonali payment is done.
That's probably a really good point. That's a really good point. So we'll see how that goes, I guess. I don't know. I mean, do we have thoughts on this kid? Has anyone watched him play? I never have. I saw his wonder goal the other day, like the clip of it, but that's it. I don't know anything about him really.
My buddy is a Fener fan, and he just texted me saying, "Please don't." And
That's weird.
He's from Turkey.
Oh, okay.
So
he looks exciting. The kid looks pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take him.
I don't know. It's a hard one because everyone's going to say like, oh, the league he's playing in. He just looks talented. Great skill, nice wonderful left foot. Reminds me a bit like Dybala from Palermo. I did a tweet about it this morning. But then it's hard to tell. Is he going to transition well into the Serie A? I think for the money, is it 17.5 million euros? Yeah, I wouldn't mind paying that, given that roll of dice there. I think we know we need sort of something exciting for the right wing, and he might be that. I don't really know how many other right wingers there are on the market that we can get. Ideally, I would like to pick up another. If we're really going to reset this and do this right, it's a situation where we get like Pulisic as well, as at least like you got one kid who's obviously outstanding technically, but we don't know if we're going to see great reality this season as a startup. At least as a backup, we can have Pulisic there to be like, well, and then also Pulisic can play on the left as well if Rafa's not playing. So it's
right. I mean, Pulisic is
I don't want it to just be that we sign him. Yeah. But anyway,
I think Pulisic is a good option for versatility alone. He plays attacking mid, right wing, left wing, striker in a pinch. You can put him anywhere in that attack.
Yeah.
And that's benefit to have, especially for a team like us who doesn't really have the depth to have backups in every position. If this Arda Guler kid comes in and he's a phenom, and then he's obviously starting at 18, then we're good to go. And you slot in Pulisic as the first sub wherever you need in the attack, whichever side's weakest at the moment. But if this kid isn't a phenom at 18, which is okay, you're not required to be, then he could be a really strong backup because we do see output from him.
Yeah.
There is a player there. Like I said, I haven't watched a whole lot more than highlights, so I only see the good things. I don't see the bad from him, but there's enough good to recognize when a player is in there. It's just a matter of will we see him right away or not. I'm okay with that though. I'm not too happy about Frattesi. I think that's probably not going to happen. I think Inter's going to get him. I think 40 mil is way too high for us.
Yeah,
not happening.
No.
Yeah.
What is our record?
I just wouldn't. It's like Andre Silva or something like that, isn't it? Probably.
Yeah, I think it's Bonucci.
Oh, Bonucci. Oh, fucking hell, even worse. Yeah, probably that. Look, I think that's about 10 to 15 mil too high for the kid. And it'd just be a bit like a hell of a lot of a chunk of that Tonali money to spend on one player, especially considering that he ain't that player. If it was like Milinkovic-Savic with like a couple years left on his deal, then I'll be like, I'm game. But like, he ain't that.
Yeah.
But he's a good player, though. I think he's probably worth about 25 to 30 million euros. I don't think we're in a position to slap 40 on him. Just sorry, on Pulisic and Guler, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
I think either of those two players, it's like you don't want to just sign one of them. Pulisic for his like injury woes and Guler because you just don't know because he's so young. I think it's just like I don't really want us to sign just one, or even if it's just like someone else instead of the kid or someone else instead of Pulisic. I think I'd rather just see us kind of just like re-bolster this attack completely and have a bit more depth there because I think it is a bit risky just signing one of those two and then hoping that they're going to be it on the right side.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, both of them or one of them and someone else. Like it can't be one by themselves. As much as I want Pulisic to be on my team and to succeed, his injury record speaks for itself and not positively. So you can't put all your eggs in that basket or the other basket of a kid, And the good news is we do have still Salamakers, still Macias, who can be okay as backups, but should be nowhere near the starting position. I think Salamakers actually does pretty well coming off the bench late in the game when people are tired and he's got fresh legs. I think I've seen enough of Macias to let that ship sail, at any moment now.
He has higher output than Salamakers, though.
I know he does, but he just pisses me off more than life itself. But neither of them could be
They're not what we need.
Yeah, we need more.
We
need more depth. That was our issue before. It's still our issue now, and I think we need 4 mids, a couple defenders, quite a few attackers. Another midfielder that we're linked with, Yunus Musa. He's another American, but he does have an Italian passport. So
he's also a great midfielder.
Yeah, good, so that would fit EU, obviously. Moretto with Ravello says that we're in contacts with Valencia for him. They want 30 mil. We're not in advanced talks yet. I don't know what we're going to do with that.
I think we can get
a good player. 20. I think we could too. I think Musa is a good player.
They got relegated, right?
I don't know, to be honest. But I think he could slot in and not fill the shoes of Tonali, obviously. But I think the cheapest available option that is as close to him, that might be it. That might be the way for us to go.
I wouldn't mind, like, if we do have to sign like a Morata, I would even like get another left winger in. I would get like a Noah Okafor in, and then you can then say, right, we might have a game where we might play him as like a false 9. So kind of like treat him like the Rebic that used to be there, and hopefully he fucks off. And then he can be that sort of like hybrid forward or play instead of Rafa. And then we just go, you know what, we're not going to spend big on a centre forward, but we're going to put some very good, interesting players around him on the wings and probably commit to a 4-3-3 properly without the need of playing a cam. You have a couple of box-to-box players, and I think Kamada can do a job there in that, and a Loftus-Cheek can be an option there. We just probably need to sign like an outright DM and probably another centre midfielder there. It's an interesting one. I do think, depending on the targets we lose, we'll probably define on the targets that we'll look to go for. And then I think that I'm fucking hoping there's a narrative on how we want this team to look. Because every signing is going to have an impact on a signing we can't get. We'll probably come onto this, which is like the non-EU spots that we have available to us as a club. And that might rule out other signings not happening. So it's interesting, but it all depends really if management have their head screwed on how to build this squad out, which at the moment I don't even think that they have a fucking clue what they're doing. I think they're just reacting.
That's the scary part, because you're hearing that Pioli's going to have more involvement in it, but then you hear that he didn't even know that Tonali was in talks with Newcastle, let alone sold. So it's like, does he really have that say? And if so, what is he saying? Did he say Tonali was expendable? I highly doubt that. I don't think Pioli, of all people, is going to say Tonali's okay to leave. I think Pioli's looking at it now like, shit, I had a hole and now I have a canyon in the middle of the field here. I need a lot of players. And
shotgun hole.
Yeah, and then you look at the forwards, like you said, if you're not going to get a big striker, then you got to put in interesting players around them. You got to have players with different styles too, so that depending on the situation, you could change it up. If you just get 3 strikers that all play the exact same way, then it really comes down to this guy's better than this guy and better than this guy, and not like this situation calls for a guy like this. You got your Giroud, your
You
aerial threat.
literally just described Moneyball
In a good way or a bad way?
in a good way.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, then Moneyball it is. Sweet. No, it's just you like if you're gonna have Giroud who could do your aerial threats, then you maybe save him till it's route one football time and we got 10 minutes left and we just got to get a goal and it's long balls over the top. You got your guy who can hit it, but you start the game and maybe you want your mobile striker who could run around and create space and do your hold up play and let the wingers go. Like, there's other shit to look into, and I feel like we're just going for multiples of the same thing and just hoping one of them is capable enough. And I feel like that's destined to fail at some point.
Yeah, I mean, you signed Pulisic. He gives you maybe 10 goals a season, 15 max.
If we get that from a winger, that would be pretty good.
Yeah, that'd be ideal. Morata, 15, that's 30.
Leo, I don't know I think those are hopeful numbers.
They are.
Those players. Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. Yeah. If you got to get the goals where you can. You got to create them from somewhere. And those are your options.
I don't think we were ever signing a striker this summer.
You don't think we will?
I think we have to.
No, I didn't think we were ever going to sign a striker of who you thought it was going to be. I think the moment that Maldini was sacked, I thought that went out the window. This kind of brings you back to the whole Thuram thing that he was the best out of the scenario I think we could get. Because now you're looking at it going, oh, there you go. Agree personal terms. Oh, Loftus Cheek. Yeah, I think he's the best out of the scenario that we have, and now we're here talking about Morata and Icardi. I mean, that's what you get when you start cussing someone who's got scored 13 goals. The best else we're going to get is get someone else who scored 13 goals in the season. So it's and a bit older.
Yeah,
I'm probably going to have to get paid the exact same as Thuram, but I actually have to spend money on him this time. So well done.
Just looking at it, the other player I'm seeing linked was Florentino Luis. That was Di Marzio who linked us from Benfica. I think he also slots in pretty well. I know I saw some people online not thrilled about it. I know Ollie's a big admirer. He fits the profile. I don't know in actuality how it'll turn out, but at this point, get him in. We need midfielders, so get as many as you possibly can. Was there any other transfers you guys want to talk about, or do you want me to just move on to questions? I know we've been going at about 40 minutes here.
Fine.
I think just Kamada, man.
Yeah. You want to talk about the EU thing? We were talking about it before. Go ahead. I'll let you explain that.
Yeah. Again. So everyone's puzzled why Kamada has not been confirmed, and there's still stalls. And I mean, I've questioned Isaac and specifically, and I think at one point he was like, "It's processing." I was like, "What the fuck is this? This isn't buffering. This isn't a YouTube video that we're still waiting for."
Milan uses Windows
I think
98.
logically,
yeah,
he probably still does. Yeah, they have in Sweden. No offense to anyone who's Swedish listening, other than Isaac. Yeah, I think the only thing that makes logical sense is that because he's a non-EU player and we've only got 2 spots available as a club right now, and I don't know the logic behind it or how it works out. If we sell a non-EU player, do we get that spot back? I'm not too sure, but all I know is that we have 2 available at the moment. And Kamada would take up one of those 2, and that would be the same for someone like Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Chukwuemeka, so both from Chelsea there. Obviously Pulisic would be another. The Turkish kid is another there. So maybe there's a theory on, trying. All right, I'm back. That's so annoying that it keeps breaking down. Anyway, where did I get up to? Can I just do that again?
Chukwuemeka is at Chelsea, and then the Turkish kid.
Yeah. So obviously we're targeting quite a lot of players who are non-EU players. So Chukwuemeka, the Turkish kid, we got Ruben Loftus-Cheek, we got Kamada. So maybe there's something in trying to get these players to get European passports before we sign him and lose all these spots we have available of non-EU spots. I mean, that's the only logical thing there. Or we're probably assessing what is the best option out of the non-EU players. Hence why we're stalling potentially on locking down Kamada. It's just none of it makes any sense why there's we were about a month since the end of the season, and we thought the deal was locked in, and we haven't announced the signing yet, or haven't announced that it's a done deal.
I think
it's
there's
very puzzling.
some truth to what you're saying. Pulisic, obviously American, but he does have a Croatian passport. Yunus Musa, same thing, American with an Italian passport. The Turkish kid is Turkish, does not have a passport, but does qualify for a German one. So I think there's a hold up there. And the smart thing to do would be, if you see a non-EU player that qualifies or has a European Union passport, you make sure they get that passport so they don't take your slot, right? Like that's a no-brainer. You mentioned Kamada might have the possibility for, obviously we didn't fact check this was just brainstorming, but he might have the possibility for a German one because he's played like 5 years in Germany right now or something like that. If that's a possibility, then I don't see why we wouldn't get it. I don't know if he has to have that before the signature or not. I don't know if that makes a difference. I really don't. I do know that there was talks about.
I was going to say, I think he does, just because you register the signing, don't you? To what is the Liga?
Yeah. I just don't know if it can be overwritten later in the season. Say like, oh, he's a citizen now. I feel like it has to be done first, but I could be wrong there. But I know he had issues with his agent not being registered in Europe.
Next season. I doubt that you can do it halfway through the season.
Yeah, or maybe like in January. It's got to be a fiscal calendar year or something like that. But yeah, I guess we'll move on to questions, right? So the first one is from Roastinary Podcast Sweden. So ironic that you just took a shit on Sweden. Your thoughts on Moneyball, and do you think Milan only should buy players from that perspective? Who wants to have it?
I think that first of all, the idea of Moneyball works, right? You look at like the Red Sox won a few championships by using it.
So to Liverpool.
Yeah, like it works if you do it correctly, if you spend money, right? I think until our stadium is built, you're not going to see us like really splashing cash. And I think once our stadium is built, Jerry's going to sell the team. So Moneyball may be out of the picture then. But yes, it works. Second part of the question, you can't go half in. You can't be like, oh, we'll buy this player for Moneyball, but this player not. Then it's not going to work. So I think every player that we buy is going to be in the Moneyball theory.
I agree with what you're saying, but I do think you can have some sort of hybrid as long as, because like you said, you got to spend money. Like you can't do the Moneyball with just the young unknown players on the cheap. Like you're not going to succeed. You might have a lucky season here and there, but the way Liverpool did it, they still spent money on established players, big name players. Obviously they had guys that weren't. Like Virgil van Dijk came from Southampton. He was a known player, but he was by no means the greatest defender in the world until he went to Liverpool for that, one season. And same with Salah. He had been around the block, but he was never blowing anyone's brains out. And then all of a sudden he hits Liverpool and he's incredible there. So you do have to spend some money. You can't get away with doing the cheap, dry stuff all the time. But on the same side of that is you can't just spend 40 mil on a guy because he's got name value. It still has to fit the system and have the right metrics or whatever the hell their algorithm says. So there is truth behind the Moneyball theory, but there's also a lot of mirage. I'll put it that way. Nothing else.
I mean, we've got to sign a fucking player for this thing, for this Moneyball theory to work. I mean, that would be helpful first. I don't know. Some of the players you just named, like Van Dijk, I swear he got sold for like £75 million or something like that. Anyways, from Southampton to Liverpool.
He
we're
did.
We're not spending nowhere near that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I mean, in theory, yeah, but I don't think it works in football, sadly. Soccer, whatever you want to fucking call it. Like, whoever's watching.
At this point, we're signing 3 fucking Americans.
No, but here's the thing. 15 million for a player when you're getting 30 million for finishing fourth compared to 120 million for finishing third is equivalent to spending $75 million, if not more so.
I'll check your math on that, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, there is a
What defines like works? By the way, like does Moneyball work? I mean, what do we want out of this as fans?
Championships, titles.
Championships.
Yeah, I don't think Moneyball works for that.
I mean, it did for Liverpool, but it took him a while, and I think that's the issue because it took him a while to build up to that point, and then they were in it for a few years. Obviously, they dropped the ball last season, but it can be done. It involves more than just what it takes in baseball,
Yeah.
Because
But
in
like,
baseball, it's one-on-one battles, whereas in football, it's 11v11 always.
yeah.
So it's
But bar Liverpool, who are different because they're a Premier League side as well, who do
yeah.
get a lot of money. Who do you have clubs that follow this model? I mean, like, what?
We have no
Actually, I
idea.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I would imagine
Well, like, let's say,
Toulouse
like,
probably.
let's get the traditional scout, buy on a low, sell on a high. So
Mhm.
like Dortmund, well, like
Red
RB
Bull.
Leipzig, Red Bull. Like, let's look at those two German sides. Shit, one just fumbled the ball on the last day of the season, didn't win the league, sadly. And then the other one, yeah, I mean, they're just like, you just exist and you can get top 4 finishes, but like, is that what we want as fans?
No,
Like,
Hey
no, we
man,
want to win.
Dortmund fans
I mean, no wonder why
don't
Man
seem
City
that
left.
disappointed ever. We also just sold the most season tickets in how many years? Like, the excitement's there, right? Like, it sucks. I don't think Jerry's going to win any silverware as an owner at all, like 0.
Mm.
But
Well, then let me pivot the question to this for you then, because if you think Jerry's not going to win any, how long do you think Jerry's going to be around? How many years?
New stadium supposed to start when? 2026.
They don't even know where.
In Italy, so that's like 2032. We'll be on for like 15 more years.
God, I hope you're wrong.
No, I think he is going to increase the value of the team by making money, revenue-wise, not like on-field performance-wise, and then he's going to sell.
I can see that too. I don't think he'll be around that long, to be honest. I do think you're onto something with the stadium. I think that's kind of what he's looking to do and then dip out. I don't know how to work it in the end, but moving on to the next question. AC Rossonero asks, who are your top 3 hopeful / realistic transfers? Is it any of the ones that have been named? Is it someone that hasn't been named yet? Who are you guys hoping for?
I would really like Giannis Musa. I think he'd be a really good addition to our midfield. And he's not as raw as this Turkish kid. 2 different positions, I think.
Very different.
Pulisic would be sweet from like a marketing perspective. I don't think he's going to come into the league and like be like, oh, this is what we've been looking for, Ballgun, I would love.
Yeah, Ballgun would be nice.
I don't want Morata at all, like whatsoever. Like, I will be as disappointed as Tonali leaving as if we signed Morata.
So you just named the U.S. men's national team. Those were your 3 picks. I mean, look, I agree actually with all 3 of them. I think those would be good players, and I do think Pulisic from a marketing point of view makes sense.
I'm not thrilled about Pulisic.
Yeah. Looking at Tonali, he was 29% of our jersey sales. He was our main guy here. Mm-hmm. Most of the jerseys sold had his name on it. So we are going to need to replace that somewhere. Do I think it's Pulisic who's going to do that? Probably not. But I do think a lot of Americans would bandwagon on that shit.
Dude, I know my buddy has every Pulisic jersey.
That's ridiculous. I bought one and it was from DHgate. It's fake.
What?
But my favorite transfers, realistic, hopeful. I like the Lukaku idea. I know people hate it. I know it got laughed at when we were linked. I know Steph just dropped his water bottle. But I think he's a big man who can score a lot of goals. We saw how his second half of the season went for him in Inter. He started off hot before he got hurt. Obviously, he is the reason they didn't win the Champions League. So, there's that. But I think his hold-up play combined with Leao, Teo, hopefully new right winger blazing down the sides there, it might lead to something good. So I'm going to go with him. I'm going to go with Kamada just because we've been linked for a while, and I like to just see that shit get done and over with. And I think Milinkovic-Savic probably would be my third.
I don't know. I like the Turkish kid. I think he looks pretty good. I actually do like Loftus-Cheek. I think he's always played well against us, or played well every time I've watched him. I don't really know. It's a hard one. Who's realistic? I mean, ideally, a dream one for me would be that Fofana from Lens, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. But yeah, those are my three.
So we already covered this. I'm not going to ask it, but I'm just going to read it off so that they know that we acknowledged it. But from Rajette, he said he was asking about the EU list. In one case, need to free up some non-EU slots. How does it work? We went over that already. So there you go. This is from Michael Gambino. We actually also touched on this. Should we be focusing on spending big for a striker? We went over what we think we're going to do with that. Next question is from Gregory Peck. He said, FFP doesn't exist for the EPL, supposedly. How can Milan and Serie A be competitive? You got to fucking win, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. We were in the Champions League final this year. Inter were, but Serie A. Just got to win shit.
FFP does matter for English Premier League. They just get like $200 million for finishing in like last place, right?
Yeah.
Their
the
marketing and
so
TV
much bigger.
rights so much bigger. Like the last place in the Premier League gets more than the Serie A champion.
Yeah. I mean, does it exist? I mean, what about Inter? Like, what about Juventus? I mean, slightly Juventus, actually, I guess. Like, I really understand FFP on a consistent basis. I don't think it exists. I think it's a fabric of an imagination, like Santa Claus and fucking Easter Bunny. Like, it's just.
Wait, Santa's not real?
Sorry, Maddie. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just UEFA just pick and choose who they want to impact and target. Yeah, it's just a bit of I don't understand any of it. Like, yes, I think you're right. Revenue-wise, Premier League make a hell of a lot of more money than us, and we can't really sit here and say, I mean, Newcastle are owned by like the Saudis, man. So like the money's there from ownership, and the money's there from revenue. Ultimately, it will just some clubs it might catch up with them. Like Chelsea having to sell a lot this summer because of the winter they just had. Yeah, I don't know. I've always questioned it since 2013. We were targeted, but hey ho.
Yeah, I don't think FFP is a working system. I mean, it benefits clubs that are already at the pinnacle, and anyone who wasn't there when it was implemented has just been struggling ever since. I read an article, and it was, I guess it wasn't really an article, it was just a list of the TV right money that the Premier League has made every season since it was the Premier League, since they rebranded it. They have made more money in TV rights than Serie A currently does as long ago as 2003. So just to make that gap clear, we're not even getting 600 million for the whole league in TV rights now in Serie A. And in 2003, the Premier League was getting 670 million pounds a year. I mean, the gap's ridiculous. And now it's like 1.5 billion. It's so insane. So how do we level the playing field? How do we become competitive? We got to improve those TV rights. The question is, how do you improve those TV rights? Is it new stadiums? Is it more energetic announcers? Is it better atmospheres? Is it better product on TV? Like there's all kinds of things it's got to be. Honestly, one of the big ones, and people are going to hate this, but it's the reality of the fact of the matter is, and the EPL is in English. English is the most spoken language in the world. That's the people who are going to be spending the money are the people who primarily speak English or Arabic. I mean, those are the two ones. So if you get a big Arabic audience, then you're there as well. But English, that seems to be the dominating factor, I think. So that's where I'm at with it. I don't know if anyone disagrees with that, but
no, I think you're right.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
Nothing's going to change at all until you see like back-to-back years of like Premier League sides winning the Champions League, and then I don't think this is sustainable. FFP and UEFA with the Prem, because it's just too much of a beast, and I think ultimately Super League is going to come back into fruition. Real Madrid, Bayern Munich and Barcelona and the top clubs in the Serie A, they're basically going to say fuck off to UEFA and it's not because it's not the Premier League's fault. They built a successful model. It's not their fault that they make so much money. But ultimately, I don't think they're a beast that can ever be toppled. and ultimately the fun of watching the Champions League will go because it will just be the same, a league having the same sides winning it all the time. And I think we're going down. I honestly think by like 2030, I can't see the Champions League existing anymore, or at least in the same format that it is right now. And I do think ultimately the clubs will become much more selfish outside of the Premier League and take an opportunity elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I think that's the only way, really, the only way to keep it going. I'll ask one more question. We did get a bunch of good ones, but we're pretty close to an hour, so I'm not going to ask them all. But this last one's from Rohit. He said, given how there is an ideological warfare about sustainable investment versus passion for the sport, what do you think should happen with Milan? Can data analytics replace the human touch and expertise of perhaps one of the greatest players? Obviously, referencing Maldini there.
No. It's a fucking human sport at the end of the day. We don't send a robot. No, I mean, I'm not directing this anger to Rohit. I love Rohit. We don't send a robot to do negotiations with other clubs or with players. Ultimately, if we ever did, then we need money to talk. We don't have the money, so we don't have that. We don't have the weight of being this like iconic club anymore that we used to be, which I love us to get back to. So ultimately, it comes down to the human appeal that we had, and we used to joke about the will of the player and Maldini holding players from not agreeing with other clubs. We've now lost that, and I'm still infuriated by that decision. And you can have all the analytics in the world that you want, but Christ, you need a lot more to get a signing across the line when you're competing with other clubs who are going to target our same players. So we've seen that in the past before. We target a player, all of a sudden Roma get interested, Inter get interested, the German clubs get interested, because we're not the only ones with this idea of the same scouting. Yeah, I don't think it replaces it. It can help, but I don't think ultimately it is the be all end all of getting a signing across the line.
Yeah, I agree. The game's not played on paper, as they say. If it was, we wouldn't play it at all. If the outcome was predetermined by statistics and metrics, then you wouldn't watch. And that's a factor that you just can never replicate, is the unpredictability, and that comes down to the human element. There's so many things that people and personalities bring to the sport and the negotiations that you'll never be able to replicate with a machine. Do I think machines can probably scout better than humans? Yeah, maybe. They might be able to uncover a hidden gem a few years before someone else. They might see trends that the human eye are blind to at first. They might have an upper edge there, but to replace, like you said, Maldini, the X factor there of, when Maldini calls you, as much of a joke as that is, it's also very true. Teo said it, Tonali said it, Leao said it, Benacer said it. When you get a call from a guy like that, you think, oh shit, maybe this is real. You saw that Tomori interview where he said he got off the phone with Maldini, and the first thing he did was call his dad and said, I just talked to Paolo Maldini. And his dad said, you're a real footballer now. He didn't get that when he went to Chelsea, when he was competing for Champions Leagues there. He got it when he spoke to Maldini. So I think that's an intangible. You can't replace it.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, clubs are also very successful without having icons there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
What club has been successful without an icon? I think you build an icon because of success.
Real Madrid?
They have a million icons.
What icon runs the club?
Okay. I get what you're saying. Gotcha. I thought you meant just in general. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of clubs these days that don't need
Manchester City. That club has no icons.
I mean, well, they got something else. Yeah. I think, and if you look at the players, the impact of the players, especially the ones who were here when Maldini was here, and you then include the human element of this, you've now lost that part of the guy who was there on the training ground every day talking to these players, and then they're not going to build that up with Moncada, and if it is, then that's going to take time. And I just don't think Moncada is going to be like that. How's he going to relate to Leao about playing football? Like, or Fellaini.
Talk to him about making music.
They're related. Oh, fucking well.
Hey, his album's actually pretty decent. I was listening to it the other day.
Bloody hell. You are a dedicated fan. Where you not like Ibra. But no, yeah, I just think you lose the touch there, and then there's the human element to how it impacts the players. There's a relating aspect there, like CDK. I'm pretty sure the maths were there and on the signing, and obviously we saw how that worked out last season. Not saying the jury's not out for him still, but you can't just relate stats to results. And then equally, I think there's an impact to the players who did feel what Maldini gave them. And when times get tough next season, you've lost that sort of figure. Not just Maldini as well, Ibra going. You've lost that figure who can really pull them out of the dirt. We talk about leaders needed in every team. We've lost two. One was in the squad and one was a director. And let's see how this new management are going to do without that now. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that sums it up. I think that covers it all. Thank you, everyone who's listened, made it this far. And we'll catch you in a week's time. I don't know when we're going to do the bonus. We haven't decided that yet, but we'll get that out. Yeah, thanks for joining me, guys.
Good podcast, as always. Better than when Oliver's here, so that's for sure.
I'll take it.
Yeah, apologies for my signal flopping, and apologies for like a quite depressive podcast.
Internet in third world countries is like
yeah, we got the Prem, but we ain't got the internet. Apologies for the signal, and apologies for the downwards tone to this week. Obviously, quite sad that Tonali's been sold and missing out on Thuram, but hopefully it's more positive weeks, as Maddie's alluded to, coming up. Get some signings, and we can talk with a bit more enthusiasm going forward. But until next time, Forza Milan.
Ecco l'Ante in area di rigore, Ante, Ibra, gol! Vediamo se è buono, ce lo dà buono.